Welcome to Keep What You Earn, your judgment and jargon-free zone for entrepreneurs of all levels. Get ready to learn how to scale your business, save money in taxes, and create a business that grows your wealth. If it feels like the financial side of business is like eating your vegetables, well, then think of this podcast as the ranch dressing to make the process a little more enjoyable. My name is Shannon Weinstein. I'm a CPA and business owner on a mission to simplify money and empower others through knowledge. I hope this episode inspires you to take action, but remember that the information we share is for educational purposes only and is not individual tax advice. Now that we got that out of the way, let's start the show. It's no secret that what a lot of us crave right now is freedom, whether that be in our calendar, in our bank account, or anything. We want more freedom, more choices, and more flexibility in our lives. We really need it, and I think we deserve it. And I'm so excited to welcome onto the show today an expert in all things building online businesses, Amy Porterfield. Amy is an ex-corporate girl. She's a New York Times bestselling author, a digital marketing expert, and a host of the Online Marketing Made Easy podcast. She happened to see early on the potential and the impact of building a digital business, and she just went all in on it 14 years ago. We're going to talk today about her story, how she did it, how she helps other people do that, and how she built and launched digital courses successfully, what she learned along the way, and what she can give you in terms of tips. This is an incredibly tactical episode filled with exact tips of what you can do right now if you want to take your online course from good to great. Also, if you've never launched a digital course, she's going to walk you through some of the approaches she uses to simplify the launch process and the creation process so it's less overwhelming and you can take action a hell of a lot faster. As a fellow Enneagram 3, I can definitely appreciate that. So I'm really excited to introduce Amy Porterfield. Amy Porterfield, welcome to Keep What You Earn.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Of course. Could you just say hello to everyone listening? Tell them a little bit about you and what you do.
Well, hello, everyone. So my name is Amy, and I always say I'm an accidental entrepreneur because I've been a corporate girl for a very long time. However, 14 years ago, I ventured out on my own and started my own online business. And through a lot of trial and error, I got to a point that my specialty is helping people take their knowledge, know-how, and skill set and turning that into a digital course that they could sell over and over again. And so that's my specialty in this big online world. And I've been doing it for a while and absolutely love it. I'm also the author of the book, 2 Weeks Notice, How to Quit Your Job, Make More Money, Work from Wherever, and Change the World.
And I love that people like you exist in the world who can inspire some faith in some of us corporate girls who are trying to exit. I was one of them just 2 years ago.
I was going to say, you have a great story. The fact that you quit your job and living in Costa Rica and you're living it up. That's what it's all about. So it was really fun to hear your story as well.
Yeah, I absolutely love it. And just some insight too, Amy. You said 14 years ago you did this. Now, I'm not saying it's easy, but it's probably easier in 2022 than it was 14 years ago. Could you just tell us a little bit about what it was like to make that switch 14 years ago before it was necessarily cool or common to do that?
Yes. It's so funny because it felt more common back then because I was hanging out with a lot of people who had done it. And I think that's like a secret right there is that when you're thinking about making that shift, find other people who have done it, listen to podcasts like yours of people that have done it. So you have that proof that this can be done. But 14 years ago, I was terrified to leave my job. I had a really cool job with Tony Robbins and I was traveling the world and getting to work on content that he did on stage. It was a cool job on paper, but I also was working for somebody else, building somebody else's dream. So when I went out on my own, I was terrified. And also I was raised by two blue collar parents. My dad was a firefighter. My mom was a hairstylist. And so I only knew hard work and the fact that you've got to grind in order to make ends meet. So for me to go online and make money, my parents thought I was insane. And so I think the hardest part was convincing my family and friends that, no, this is a good idea. When in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm not sure if it is. So yeah, today I think that it's more common. There's more books about it, more programs about it, and people are encouraging it. Where back then I was with some friends that did it, but it wasn't really encouraged.
Yeah, and I think that more and more as people prove it's possible, it becomes more commonplace because people see the evidence around them. It's like we have to prove it to ourselves that we can do it by watching others do it.
Absolutely. So
So,
true.
speaking of that, I know that one of the catalysts for that was digital courses, as you mentioned, by growing online. Can you just talk to us about how, like, making that transition, right? Discovering digital courses? Because I love this story that discovering the possibility of running a business online by being inspired by others doing it, but also why digital courses, what is unique about them and creating that sustainability of a business?
So what happened was when I left my corporate job, I didn't know how to create digital courses. I really didn't know how to run a business, but I was good at social media. And so I thought, I'll take clients, I'll do their social media. So a lot of my students kind of venture out by being a service-based business or coaching or consulting, which is an easier way to kind of move into a new direction. So for 2 years, I did social media for small businesses. And for 2 years, I hated doing social media for small businesses. I didn't like working one-on-one. I had left a corporate job because I hit a glass ceiling. But then when you do one-on-one and it was just me working with clients, there's only so much money I could make. And so I knew that I was going to hit that ceiling again. And I also didn't like to be on the hook with all of these clients. It just wasn't for me. It's for some others, but just not for me. So at that time, I thought I have to change this business model. So that's when I decided I'm going to create digital courses around marketing, which was my specialty, and teach that to small businesses. Now, the first time I did it, I thought I'd make $100,000 because I looked around on social media and it looked like everyone else was making $100,000. So why not me? I guess I had a lot of faith in myself. I made $267 in profit when it all shook out. And I was devastated. I cried for a week. And what I made it mean is that I'm not cut out to be an entrepreneur and I'm going to have to go back to my job. And so I was devastated. Thank God I have a husband that believes in me, picked me back up, dusted me off, and pushed me back into the entrepreneurial world. But it was a dark time for me. But I decided to try again. I started to study it more. There weren't a lot of courses on courses yet, but I got the information I needed, tried it again, and I made $10,000, which felt like a lot of money for me. And so I did it again and did it again. And I got really good at creating courses, but also launching them and encouraging others to buy them. And so I was teaching social media through these courses. And then I started to hear, Amy, how are you being so successful with your courses? What are you doing? How do you create them? How do you launch them? And I heard it over and over again. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to teach other people how to have more freedom in their life, because when you have a digital course, you get to work when you want, where you want, how you want. It is the ultimate freedom business model. And so I wanted that for other people because I was finally experiencing it. And that's when I started to make that pivot. So since then, that's exactly what I've been doing. And it kind of took some time. I had to go through some ebbs and flows of the business to get where I'm at today.
I love it. I have sort of a chicken and the egg question for you, which is what comes first? Marketing a digital course or making an exceptional digital course when it comes to actually selling one?
So it's a tricky question. And so I would say making the digital course, but not fully. So hear me out. So the way I teach it, I have a model. I have a very specific model on how to teach it and how to launch it. And the way that I teach it is you have to first come up with your topic. And the way you come up with your topic is you ask yourself, where do I have a 10% edge? A 10% edge is I have an expertise where I've gotten results either for myself or for somebody else. And I am willing to teach the step-by-step on how to get those results for other people. So you don't need years and years of certification, or you don't need probably more education. Everyone has a 10% edge in an area. It's just the question is, do you want to teach that in a digital course? So first, you look at your 10% edges. You've got a few of them probably. Ask yourself, is that something I want to teach in a course? And then from there, you've got to fully flesh out an outline. You need to know what you're going to teach and ultimately what kind of results that you're promising. So when I teach people how to create digital courses, we spend a lot of time on the outline. And now with AI, I could teach my model, but then teach people how to fast track by using Chat GPT to get it done faster, which is really exciting. So you've got to have a fully fleshed out outline. You need to know what you're going to teach, what results you're going to promise, and also who you want to market to. But once you've got that rounded out, you can now market it. You could do webinars, you can do challenges, email marketing, social media. You can sell it before the course is done. This is how many of my students have done it and how I did it in the beginning. Once people buy the course, then you can create a module a week and make that module go live. So now you're creating it in real time, week by week, and your audience will give you feedback and you can incorporate that into the course while you're creating it. So it's a tricky question because you've got to have some things in place, but you don't have to have the whole course fleshed out before you make money.
And I think that's what people make the mistake of the most from what I've seen. And I've been victim of this as well, where I know what they need. I'm going to go make it and everyone's going to go buy it. We all think that because it's so good. Who wouldn't want this? Do you feel like that was the $267 a year?
Absolutely. Okay, so let's talk about that real fast. The reason I only made $267 was for 3 reasons. Okay. Number 1, I taught something that I did not have a 10% edge in. I taught how to use social media to launch a book. I felt like I had to really, really niche down. I knew social media. I had worked with authors, but I had never launched a book in my life. Now I have a rule. I never teach what I haven't done. But back then I didn't know any better. So 1, I didn't have a 10% edge, which meant I knew the information. I researched it. I put together a great course. I had zero confidence in my ability to get people results. That comes through when you're selling. And so part of having the 10% edge is finding the confidence to actually sell something because you know you can get people results. That was number 1. Number 2, I didn't have an email list. And so because, and this is something I teach when I teach digital course creation, how to grow an audience, because without an audience, you can't do anything. And then from there, I said there are 3 reasons why it didn't work well. What was your initial question about why the course didn't work?
Was that the creating it before marketing it?
Oh, yes. So I created it as I went, but I didn't validate the idea. So this is another thing I teach my students how to do. There's a lot of validation exercises you can do before you ever create or sell the course to make sure that people will actually want to buy it. I didn't validate anything. I did exactly what you said. Well, this is a great idea. I should create it. Let's get it out into the world. And I really missed the mark on how to position it because I didn't even get any feedback before I did it.
Yeah, I find that a lot of folks don't wait for someone to ask for it, or they should wait for someone to ask for it before really validating the idea and making sure they go make it. It's basically you're cooking something that no one ordered.
Yeah, exactly.
So who are you going to feed it to? You're going to go around the tables and go, anyone want a burger? Anyone want one? Anyone want one? And it's like, don't just give them a menu, see what they're ordering, listen, pay attention, right?
Oh, that's a great analogy for validation. Yes, exactly. Yes.
So let's talk about the marketing side of things, because I think this is where people get stuck too. And I know this is what you focus a lot on. Hell, the podcast is called Online Marketing Made Easy for a reason, because marketing is one of the hardest things to do because it's unpredictable. It's always ebbing and flowing. We've got a new social media platform that popped up last week. Like, oh boy, now the strategy pivots, right? So when it comes to launching a digital course, which I know is a specialty of yours, I think simplification is everything for business owners, because it's so easy to get caught up, overwhelmed, overcomplicate. And people get overcomplicate launches, I think, but a lot of people are overwhelmed by them. And they're thinking, oh, I can make a course, but God, if I have to launch it, it's exhausting. I'm watching other people burn out. It takes forever. Give them some words of advice, how they can maybe simplify it, zoom out, whatever that may look like, to have a successful but not a burning out launch if possible.
I love this question because absolutely it happens. And I've seen it over and over again. And I think the burnout happens because when people are just starting out, they think they should do everything with that first launch. And in my program, I teach everything. I teach everything that you would need. But I also started out by saying there's a motto that I live by and that I teach my students, and it is keep it simple, get fancy later. The bells and the whistles, which might be the webinars and the extra bonuses and the extra early bird special pricing and all of that, that can come and it absolutely works. And I'll teach you that, but you don't need to do it your first launch. So a lot of my students, I've been interviewing a lot of my successful students to really understand how they use my program. And what I've learned over the years is they don't do everything that I teach them in their first launch. They pick and choose. They use their own discernment. Like, I'm able to do this. I'm able to do that. I'm a one-woman show. I don't have a big team. So I'm not doing 4 webinars in the first launch. A lot of them don't even do any webinars. And so they just do what's possible. Now, that means that their first launch likely won't be as profitable as, let's say, their second launch when they add these bells and whistles. But I always say that the first launch you do is just as much for you as the marketer, as the entrepreneur, as it is for your audience, because you grow, you learn, you become more nimble in terms of tweaking things quickly. You see what you're made of, you see what you're good at, what you're not good at. So the next time around, you're tweaking it to fit exactly what you need it to do to hit those big goals. I just talked to one of my students and she made $16,000 on her first launch. Now that's a lot of money, especially if you think about a 9-to-5 job. Most people aren't making that in a month. She made it in 2 weeks, but she was really disappointed because she didn't hit her goal. I don't even know what her goal was, but she was disappointed. Well, she said though, but now I know what I'm capable of and how I can turn it up. And so I needed to ease into this. And she said, and 32 beautiful people bought my course and now I have a relationship with them. So I love that kind of attitude. I think that's what it takes to win in this.
Yeah. And I've worked with a lot of people that were in coaching or in digital courses, and clients of mine, people I've been in masterminds with who are launching digital courses. And I love the analogy of, this is kind of something I came up with a video game. And it's like defeating a boss or defeating a level. And I go, but the levels get easier the more weapons you have.
Yeah.
The more skills you accumulate. You're getting like skill points. And then the boss will be much easier to defeat the more skill points you accumulate, as long as you're going around scavenging for those other points, like little coins or whatever. You're getting what you need to succeed on the next one. Even if you're not defeating the boss, you're going to walk away with all the skill points. And that is a big thing for people to understand. Something that I didn't understand initially. I was defeated. I had 3 silent launches. And then I was like,
silent launches, like they didn't do well?
Yeah, they did not. There was absolutely crickets. But then I knew this is what I didn't do, or this is what I missed out on, or this is what I didn't apply correctly. But without that feedback, I wouldn't have gone back to the drawing table so strongly and said, okay, we need to get really clear on what are people actually asking for? What do they actually need? What are the questions they keep asking? And how do I make something in response to that, as opposed to internally generated that I think they need? What are they actually ordering? What are they actually asking for? So that was exactly my problem.
Okay, I love that you shared that. And I have a question for you because I think this is valuable for everyone listening. 3, I love that you call them silent launches. I was like, is that a new marketing strategy? But crickets. But most people, 1 or 2, they're jumping ship and they're not going to do it. How did you stay in the game? Like, what was your mindset after launch 1 that didn't work, after launch 2 that didn't work? That is rare.
It is rare, but I'm an Enneagram 3 that's stubborn AF. And I'm like, I'll be damned if I don't check this box that I sold a course.
Yes, I love that. Getting like competitive with yourself and kind of gritty, like, hell no, this is going to work one way or another, and believing that you can figure it out. That's how you do this. So that's really cool.
I took each one as tuition. I said, well, that was a lovely semester that we learned like what to do. And it really was a crash course in business school of what did you not do that you can avoid next time? You know, what's the stone you didn't step on? What's the thing? And to your point, Amy, it wasn't about getting fancy and adding more. It was actually taking stuff away and focusing on other things, not trying to do like every platform and every email and blast the emails out. It was like, how could I get really intentional about doing less and doing it well, as opposed to scattered, massive, messy action, which I believe in, but I knew I was kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what stuck for, several months. And that was exactly the intention. So
great mindset around that. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And it's much easier now. Obviously, now that we've actually started selling stuff, I'm pretty sure if I was here and it hadn't clicked at some point, I would definitely feel very defeated. So I have to say that thank goodness we, consumed the feedback and implemented.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So in talking about digital courses too, so I know I'm going to just like address the elephant in the room with digital courses that everyone's mumbling right now, which is, have we passed the heyday? Is that like, that's so 2020, that's so 2021 or whatever? Would you see this as like trendy, the online course thing? Do you think it's here to stay? Do you think online courses, digital courses are going to be where it's at for the long term? What is your kind of outlook on it?
So obviously I'm biased, but the benefit here is that I study this every single day. And 14 years ago, when I created my first digital course, to fast forward to today, And digital courses have only become more successful in terms of people creating them and selling them. They become more sophisticated as well. The platforms that I used back in the day versus what I use now, it's like night and day. It was very clunky back then. Today, it's like you log in and it feels like you're on Netflix when you're navigating through my digital course, figuring out what's right for you. So I only see things getting better and bigger. So I believe in 5, 6 years from now, we will still be creating and selling digital courses, and they're going to be more sophisticated. They're going to be easier to navigate, easier to get through. I also think with AI, this is something that I've incorporated into teaching how to do courses and how to launch them. People are going to get them done faster, which is probably the biggest challenge, that some people, it just takes them too long writing scripts, writing emails, writing sales pages. They hate it. And so it takes them too long and they don't get it done. AI is absolutely going to wipe out that challenge. So I think with AI, it's going to allow more people to get their expertise out there in really cool ways. Now, someone might be listening and saying, yeah, but Amy, are you even going to need courses because of AI? And here's what I believe to my core. When you are learning how to do something new, like create a digital course, you want to learn from someone who's gone before you, someone that will share the good, bad, and ugly, the challenges along the way, the obstacles to look out for, how to overcome and troubleshoot. AI is not going to give you that personal experience. But if someone were to say, here's how to create a really robust outline for your digital course, so you know how many modules, how many lessons, how many videos, then plugging into AI and saying, help me write a script about this topic and add this and add that. Boom. You just use somebody's expertise who have gone before you and a tool to get it done faster. Because of that, I think we're actually going to see even more amazing, really well done courses in the world with technology that allows you to navigate them easier.
And I also think that coinciding with higher education being more and more expensive and less return on investment, I honestly think this is where the world is heading, is sharing expertise with each other and leveraging each other. I mean, what did you go to school for? Just curious.
Communications. How about you?
Accounting.
Okay.
So
we both stayed in our lanes.
Yeah, we stayed in our lanes. We both used our degrees, rare.
Very rare.
But I was going to say the unless you're in a certain industry, a very focused, let's say technical area, it's really tough to learn this type of stuff. And I know that even in business school, you can probably attest to this. I learned way more in 1 year of online marketing, doing it myself, than I ever did in 4 years at a university about business.
It's so true. I have a 21-year-old son. He's my stepson and he's in college right now. And I love that he's going through the college experience. I loved going to college. I loved that. But I know that he's not learning anything that important that he won't learn when he gets out into the real world in a bigger way. So I totally agree with you that once I quit my job and got out there and the only paycheck that was coming in is the one that I generated for myself, that's when everything had to start sinking in or I was screwed. And I think that fire is important.
Totally. Now, going back to that for 1 second, I have a question for you about that experience of quitting your job, because I'm curious, because I've talked about my story on the show before in this. When did you kind of decide, what was the cutoff? What was the point where you were like, that's enough for me to quit, or that's when I'm going to quit? Or was there a milestone, a finish line you set, a marker, anything that you used to trigger that, I'm ready?
I love this question because in my book, 2 Weeks Notice, the first few chapters are about creating a runway to quit your 9-to-5 job and to start your own business. And that runway, one of the big things that I did that I teach my readers to do is choose an exit date. Now that exit date may depend on, I want to save X amount of money before I go out on my own, or it might just be, I'm going to give myself 6 months to figure out what I'm going to do. And so for me, at the time that I was officially ready to quit, I gave myself 6 months. It was in June. So I put the exact date on a Post-it, put it on a mirror that I saw every single day. And when I saw that exit date, I asked myself, what do I need to do today to move me closer to that date? And let me give you a quick example. So one of the things I did is there was this woman online that was selling digital courses. She had a blog. Podcasts weren't really even a thing back then, but she had a blog and she had clients and she was doing the kind of work that I would love to have done. That's the kind of business at the time I wanted. So I called her up and I said, I know you don't offer this, but can I pay you for an hour of your time and ask you about how you started your business? And she said yes. So during my office hours, when I was still at Tony Robbins, the walls were thin. I got underneath my desk. I got on my landline. I don't even think I had a cell phone at the time. And I'm like, how did you start your business? How did you create your first digital course? How did you do this? And she was so generous. And she's still my friend to this day with her time. And that was so valuable to me. So I started to get a little risky in my requests and things that I did because I had a deadline. I was leaving on that date. And the day I drove out of the San Diego offices in this little white car packed with all my boxes in the back, the song Here Comes the Sun came on the radio by the Beatles. And I'm like, this is a sign. This is going to be amazing. And then the next 2 years were the hardest years of my life. But I'm still glad I stuck with it because here I am today talking to you.
Yeah. And it's making that decision because you're never going to feel ready. There will always be excuses to stay. There will always be a reason to say no, not yet. And it was just, for us, it was just super clear. And a little bit of my story that the listeners have probably heard before, but both me and my husband's dads passed away from cancer.
Ooh.
Before the age of 60, really, or early 60s. And both of them were answering work emails on, in my dad's case, his BlackBerry, until the day before they died. They never got to retire. It wasn't promised. This vision that we were kind of given of work really hard, you'll be rewarded, the rainbow at the end, right? Of retirement. My husband and I looked at each other and we were like, what the hell are we doing? Like, what is it all for? If not to live now? And that was actually when we decided we were going to buy the house in Costa Rica. We were going to buy it for my father-in-law, who's now since passed, because we just said it's too important to wait. There's going to be a million reasons to wait.
Yeah.
A million reasons to say, when we retire, when this, when that. I go, we have the energy now. Let's do it now. And let's do it scared. And what's the worst that could happen? We go back. We go, we go back to comfort zone land, but it was so important to do that. And then quitting the job, same thing, was terrifying. But also I actually went the other way with it. I gave my husband a runway and I said, give me 6 months. And if I can't, let me quit, because it was about to be tax season plus my corporate job where I was a director of 9 people. And I was like, I will not survive.
No.
Let me leave now. Give me 6 months. And if I can't do it, I'll find another job. It ain't this one, but I'll find another job that makes me happier. But let me try.
That is great. I wish I knew you when I was writing my book, because I would have added that to the book, in the sense of using your partner, if you're so lucky to do so, to give you that space. I love that. And
the accountability, because he would hang that over my head. He'd
like, come on, girl.
You'd be like looking at the watch, like, clock's ticking. How are you doing with your sales? And it was cool to have some type of scorecard or accountability. Again, Enneagram 3. To have some type of thing say you've accomplished it. But it also created this amazing value I had for that moment when I hit the goal, because you know how we are as entrepreneurs. We hit a goal and we're already at the next goal.
Yeah.
We don't sit in the celebration very often. We'll go, I hit 1 million. I want 10. Like, it's just crazy. And we don't sit there and go, like, look behind you and look how far you came. All you see is the mountain up there, and you don't look at how far you've climbed up. And we do it to ourselves all the time, but that was a really great tool to force me to go, yeah, I freaking did that. I can camp out for a night here and enjoy the view, and then we'll move on to the next step. But yeah, super cool to create these milestones and actually have your partner participate in them.
Yes, I think that's a great plan. I hope someone felt inspired by that, because that's a different way to do it, and I love it.
And not to mention a healthy cash flow forecast that told me how long I needed in order to do that.
And there's
we have the tools.
Financial girl in you.
Yes, the accountant was there doing a cash flow forecast. There were spreadsheets involved. Do not get it twisted. It was a full-on Excel situation. But I'm happy to help my clients do the same thing, or for others to map out their exit plan as well with cash flow. So it's an amazing tool. Switching gears back to the digital courses, I would love to know your thoughts on some of these. There's this tug going on between which is better, right? High ticket, low ticket. Include a community in calls, make it just the evergreen course. The pricing, what's included, the size, the duration, micro, bigger. What are the trends that you're seeing? Where do you think it's heading? What are your clients doing with it? What are you advising? Just any advice on this huge world of possibility of what you can create, helping narrow it down to something and curating an offer that works?
Okay, so I love that you asked this question because one of the trends we're seeing, and I've seen it for years now and it's continuing, is bite-sized pieces of content. Back in the day when I made digital courses, some of my videos were 45 minutes to an hour and no one thought any different. It wasn't even a big deal. These days, no one's watching an hour-long training video. But let's say I have an hour-long piece of content, like it's going to take an hour to get the result that they want. Then I do short 15-minute videos where they feel as though I'm making momentum, I'm getting through this quickly. That feeling of momentum is important to get people to the finish line. So you're just going to break up your content in different ways, no matter what type of course you create. But let's talk about the type of course and pricing. So typically you see 3 different types of courses: a starter course, a spotlight course, and a signature course. Let me break them down quickly. A starter course is like a 101 course, just helping people get started, get their feet wet. It's like the basics 101, and people love that when they have no idea where to start. And because it's a starter course, it's typically a lot shorter, which means it's a entry price point. So somewhere between $50 to $200 is typically what we see for a starter course. Now, a spotlight course is where you take one area of your expertise and you go deep. So for example, my student, Rob Green, he's a photographer, but during COVID, he created his very first digital course, which was how to make flash photography look like natural light. That's a very specific topic. It's a spotlight course. And so he had 100 people on his email list. He made $12,000 with a price point. I think it was somewhere between $200 and $300. So that is something that most of us could do when we can get more specific. But because it's specific, you can charge more. So a spotlight course is anywhere from $200 to $500 price point. And then the third type of course is a signature course. I say this is the Mac Daddy of all courses. It's going for a total transformation. So you're helping someone from start to finish get a big transformation. And there's a lot of steps in between to get them there. And so because it's a more robust course, because it's a big transformation you're promising, you're going to charge more, anywhere from $500 up to $3,000. And so when you think about first the type of course you create, then you can start to think about how much you want to charge for that course. But no matter if it's a starter, spotlight, or signature course, small pieces of content, easy to get through videos, very important. Now, you mentioned a community. Should I have a Facebook group or a circle group or some kind of community that goes along with the course? Yes, but maybe not your first time out. This is where those bells and whistles, refraining from adding too much in the beginning, is a really good idea, because the fear my students feel is, what if I only get 10 people in my very first course? What if there's not a lot of people to get that engagement of the group going? Don't create a group. Do a Slack channel or a Voxer or Zoom calls once a week, or it doesn't matter how many people show up, you can give value to those that do. So you don't necessarily need a community your first time out.
I love that. And another idea that just pops into my head is you don't do the community the first round, maybe the first 2 or 3, if you're doing multiple launches. But then when you add the community, you invite the alumni into the community to nurture it and to be the proof in there to encourage people and cheer them on.
Absolutely. I love that. So finding ways to bring those past clients into your new experience, always a great idea.
Yeah, I love that idea. You just got me thinking. I'm like, signature, starter, and spotlight. I love that you have a sort of a framework of categories for those to organize them. And for those who are looking, maybe they have a million ideas. I'm one of these people who has like a million ideas of courses that could be products that they offer in the future. When it comes to prioritizing, number one, what to launch or what courses to put out there, right? Do you start with the starter? Do you start with the signature? Do you start with a spotlight that's really specialty like Rob did? You know, what is a great first course to launch? And then, is the vision to build a library of courses to stick with one for a while? What do you see works really well for people?
You have so many great questions. These are like the good questions, the way you asking them. So when you're brand new at courses, I would suggest a starter or a spotlight course, because a signature course, number one, is more expensive, and you might get in your head about, oh my gosh, I have to sell a course that's $1,000. I've never sold anything online. That could be scary for any of us. And also just give yourself a chance to work out the content. So for example, starter, spotlight, signature course. That's kind of the stuff I teach people, how to get your own spin on your own content so that people can remember. So you're going to want to do that with any type of course, but the smaller the course, it's easier to create your content and figure it all out. Now, I do have students who absolutely break the rules and it's their very first course and they're creating a signature course, but those students typically are very much experts in their field. So for example, one of my students, she was a psychologist and she was taking clients one-on-one, but she wanted more freedom. So she created a course based on her expertise in psychology and working with her clients, but she charged $3,000 for it. She is a psychologist. She has the background. She has the clients who would want the course. So she felt like if I just build this audience, I know I could teach this. So it's based on your confidence level and your bandwidth. If you're a one-woman show and you have a full-time job, creating a signature course is probably not where you want to start. So there's a lot of different factors that you want to look at in that case.
I would completely agree with that. You want to get something out as quickly as possible too, to be able to get the feedback and
Yes.
circulate it and everything. So Amy, in your program, do you help people with marketing the course and creating the course? Do you focus on one versus the other? Do you cover everything?
It's a signature course, which means full transformation. So we start with an idea, validation, building out the outline. So all the course creation. And then, yes, we go into marketing, webinars, email, social media, no stone left unturned. And I'm the type of teacher, the thing that I think is my secret sauce is that I don't assume you know how to do this. No one is born with this expertise and no one teaches this in school. Maybe more now than back then, but I teach people in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We didn't learn this in school. So I teach in a patient way, step-by-step hand-holding, and don't assume that you know what a webinar is or what to put in every slide. So I teach you slide by slide by slide. So yes, I cover all of it.
I love it. And like the hand holding is great when you need it, when you're really new to this world, which I know a lot of people are, even though a lot of people, it feels like everyone's really experienced in this and there's a whole lingo. I love that you can break it down and just say, no, let me like Sesame Street it back to level one
Yes.
so that we can all succeed, right?
We even have a glossary because I'm throwing out terms, opt-in pages, funnel, conversion. Some people are like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And
Yeah.
think about this. My friend and student who's a psychologist, she's very smart, very educated. That doesn't mean she knows webinar conversion rates. Like that is just a whole different world. So I just assume you don't know. And if you do, then you go through it faster.
There you go. And how specifically, if you can cite any exact examples or how this kind of sort of manifested for you, how has digital course sales impacted your life specifically and how it's changed by being able to make money doing that?
So when I think about how I was making money before, the one-on-one work and how I felt really stuck in terms of how far I could go with that. And then when I look at my life as a digital course creator, it is so incredibly different because I teach people how to launch a course and then take some time off and then launch it again and then eventually put it on automation. And the reason I teach that is for freedom. I got into entrepreneurship because I didn't want a boss. I didn't want to be told what to do, when to do it, or how to do it. And I wanted to do it on my terms. So I can't teach people how to do something and then they have to be a slave to that. I want to teach someone how to do something and have the freedom to do it when they want. And so I really do encourage people to build a business around the lifestyle they want. And if you want more freedom, if you want more flexibility, exploring digital courses is absolutely the way to go.
I couldn't agree more. And I think that the more we can transition ourselves out of that person who has to be always on, always present, always front of stage, the more that we can start to take the time we need to rest, take the time to reset, decide how and when we want to show up, right? Is that something that was a goal for you in kind of making this transition?
Yes, absolutely. I wanted that more than anything. I recently took 3 weeks off and I made money while I was off and I was able to truly turn it off when I wanted to. Last year, I took an entire month off. I didn't love it. I'm a Enneagram 3 as well. And that was just a little too anxiety producing for me. I like to be in the work. But I take the time off because I need to be an example of what is possible. And I never want to teach what I've never done. And so having freedom in my life, taking the time away is important to prove this really can be your reality.
Amazing. And just some parting words of advice for our listeners. What can they do to take their course from good to great?
Oof, I love this question. So number one, really care about how you teach it and care about the results that students are getting. Track that they're getting to the end of the course, track that they're getting those results. And if they struggle, you want to be a part of their solution. So what I teach is that you can do live Q&As, you can have office hours, go on the journey with them. To move a good course to a great course is that you go on the journey. It doesn't have to just be you. You can have a team member in there. You can have alumni of your course in there, but have a way to support people to get to the end.
Love it. And how can people find out more about Digital Course Academy? Tell them more about the program.
Digital Course Academy comes out every September, so it's coming out soon. But in the meantime, we created this really comprehensive quiz, and it's to help you decide if you're the type of person that would be a good fit for a digital course. There's 3 types of people that have been able to replace their income with income from a digital course. And if you want to know if you're one of those people, we've got a quiz. So amyporterfield.com/quiz. It's as easy as that. Go take the quiz and I'll give you your first steps to get started if you are a good fit for digital courses.
Love it. Grab that link in the show notes, guys. It's right there. Go click it. One more time, Amy, can you just name the URL again?
amyporterfield.com/quiz.
Amazing. Make sure if you took anything away from this episode, guys, tag me, tag Amy in your stories on Instagram or whatever social media app is added by then. We would love So we would love to hear that you're enjoying the show and that you're learning something new, taking something away. Reward our guests for showing up by telling them you learned something. It warms our Enneagram 3 hearts. We really appreciate it.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Amy. If you're a business owner who's been listening to this show, but you want a little bit more personalized advice and you want to pick my brain on your business and get your own financial strategy in place, well, I'm excited to announce that I'm now offering CFO Power Sessions for business owners who want help translating what their numbers are trying to tell them, but don't necessarily want the support of an ongoing fractional CFO. If you're interested, submit a request using the link in the show notes. I only accept a limited number of spots per month, so make sure you jump on it and submit right now. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating and review on your podcast platform. This small action goes a long way for podcasters to get our message heard by more business owners just like you. Be sure to check out the show notes for links to information about our guests and ways to get in touch with me. We'll see you on the next episode.